Hi everyone and welcome to StudioJake, Comics, Cartoons, and Coffee, where we talk all things comics, whether it be their movies or their television shows or their graphic novels, as well as cartoons, whether it be any sort of media related to them, all while enjoying a nice beverage, sometimes hot, sometimes cold, always coffee. I actually miss the cup because I like to slurp. I don't know if that drives you crazy. Let me know in the comments below. It definitely drives my wife crazy. Today's topic, I wanted to go into something that I enjoy a great deal. It's something that's exploding, especially in Western countries, and that is anime. So what is anime? Anime is a particular art style that is predominantly featured in like Japan, but also you can see it in China and Korea. It's basically an Eastern style of animation, and it connects to cartoon. There are shows like Dragon Ball, Gundam, and all of its spin-offs, Pokemon. You might be familiar with that one. That is definitely an anime. You can watch, I think, all of the Pokemon stuff on Netflix. There's also popular shows like Speed Racer. Bet you didn't know that was an anime. There's also Mega Man and Mega Man NT Warrior. I actually watched Mega Man NT Warrior. I didn't know this at the time. I liked Mega Man NT Warrior, but I found out like hardcore Mega Man fans didn't like that anime for some reason. Give or take. I know it was really made for kids, but who knows. Anyway, maybe you're sitting back and you're thinking, hey, listen, anime is kind of exploding in Western countries right now, but I don't really know where to dive in. I mean, I see Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, but should I watch both of them? Should I watch GT? The answer to that is always no. But you might be wondering, where do I begin? I don't know where to start. Because anime isn't one particular show, and it's not a genre, it's an art style. That's why there's this big argument whether Avatar: The Last Airbender is an anime, because it's kind of borrowing from those kinds of themes and those kind of archetypes and those kinds of animation. Me and my wife constantly have this debate. She says it is an anime, I say it's not an anime, and it's an ongoing thing. By the way, I love Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I recognize that it has some anime influences. I just don't think that that makes it an anime. That's kind of a side point. If you're wondering, where do I begin when it comes to all of this? Where do I start when it comes to anime? Good news for you, I have a list of anime if you have kids, ones that you can watch with your children, and then ones if you're just like an adult and you're like, I want something that's deeper, maybe a little bit darker and grimmer and grittier. I got you covered there as well. So I'm going to have 10 basically. Now, this is not a best of list. So for all of the anime weebs out there, this is not a best of list. This is just if it's for someone brand new who wants to branch into anime, but they don't know where to start. This is for them. It's shows that are kind of easier to follow, shows that it's a little bit easier to access. That way you can watch them in your own time and have a good time. Okay, so to start off, you might be seeing me wear my Ghost in the Shell shirt. And no, that Ghost in the Shell, it's a standalone movie. It is definitely not on this list. I still highly recommend it if you like cyberpunk themes, but no, it is not on this list of stuff for beginners. So starting off, I'm going to mention one that's more for if you have a family, if you have kids. Now, I will say the kids should be older. I'm talking maybe at least 10, but I'm going to recommend Sailor Moon. This is actually one of my wife's favorite animes. Specifically, I say season 1, which is just called Sailor Moon, and then the second season, which is called Sailor Moon R. They're very easy to follow. It's got a lot of deep characters, and especially if you have girls, it's a good show. I mentioned this in a previous episode where I talk about girly girl superheroes. Sailor Moon is definitely like that. And specifically, the first 2 seasons, they're really easy to get into, and you can watch them in English on Amazon. I believe Hulu also has them, and right now they're doing a remake of the show. It's called Sailor Moon Crystal, and I want to throw that one out there. It only has 1 season, so if you're like, oh, I'm not really ready to get into like a 90s and early 2000s show, I want to see something that's more modern, they do have a reboot called Sailor Moon Crystal. Viz Media does the dub for both of the shows, so it's the same voice actors. I will admit, when I watched the reboot and I saw the same voice actors for the reboot, it did discombobulate me a little bit because I was like, but you're still kind of confused at first. You're like, oh, shouldn't it be a different voice cast? But no, it's because Viz Media, who do amazing jobs with other shows like Inuyasha, they took great care in casting, and I don't blame them for wanting to keep the cast for both versions. So definitely check out Sailor Moon. Highly recommend it, especially if you have kids. Now, if you're in your late teens, or if you're an adult and you want something that has more action, that has more adventure, that is a little bit more gritty, I'm going to recommend one of the Gundam shows to you. And I know all the Gundam fans are going to pull out their hairs when I mention this. Mobile Fighter G Gundam. So Gundams are shows about, basically, they all kind of follow the same premise. Earth has colonies in space, and the colonies rebel against the Earth, and then they end up fighting in these giant mechs called Gundams. And in Mobile Fighter G Gundam, it's the colonies in outer space. There's one for every nation in the world, and they participate in a contest that takes place on the Earth. And they can do this anywhere, no matter if it endangers civilians or not. But the main character is Domon Kashu. He's from Neo Japan, and he pilots the Shining Gundam, and then he becomes friends with other pilots, including the one from America who pilots the Gundam Baxter, and they basically fight for dominance. You find out that there's a conspiracy related related to Domon's entry into the contest and why he has to win, and it involves his brother, and his family has conspiracy charges against them. You find out why. I won't spoil the whole thing, but one of the reasons I say it's not for kids, because there are a lot of Gundams that are for kids. It's just very violent. It has a very dark tone to it. So your kids should at least be in their teens if you're going to watch it. It does have a little bit of foul language in it. Not a lot, but I do recommend it. Definitely check it out. I can't remember which company does the dub for it, but they do it really good. And one of the reasons I'm recommending G Gundam as opposed to, say, Gundam Seed or Gundam Wing is because it does kind of have more of a straightforward story. It only has technically 4 seasons, but they're all shorter, so you can follow along pretty quickly. And also, it's a self-contained story, so it's not connected to a bunch of other shows. So you don't have to go back and watch another Gundam to understand what's going on in Mobile Fighter G Gundam, and that happens a lot with Gundam series, is they'll connect to another one, so you have to go back and watch to realize, oh, what happened here? With G Gundam, you don't have to do it. That's why I'm recommending that one. Okay, so up next, I'm going to mention Zoids. Specifically in Japan, it's called New Century Zoids, and in America, I believe it's called Zoids Zero. It is a sequel show to another Zoids, but it's still self-contained, and it actually aired, I believe, on Cartoon Network as part of their Toonami block. It's a really interesting story. Again, it's another mech one where the mechs are how should I put this? They're like AIs with consciousness and sentience, and so the humans have to work with them. Particular, the one that pilots the Liger Zoid. Yes, I said that right. Liger.
What's a liger?
It's pretty much my favorite animal. It's like a lion and a tiger mixed. Bred for its skills and magic.
But it's a good one for the family. It's a good one you can watch with your kids. There are a few episodes that have some darker themes, but it's pretty much clean. You can watch it. Especially if they're like 7 and up, I think they would enjoy it. Both boys and girls can get into Zoids. It's a lot of fun. I believe it's on Amazon. The English dub is on Amazon. Okay, so this next anime, this is not for kids. Do not be like those idiot parents who brought their kids to Deadpool and Birds of Prey. Well, Birds of Prey just because it was a bad movie, but Deadpool because of all the adult content. With Death Note, it's not like Deadpool where there's like a ton of foul language and sexual content and, just explosions and mayhem and chaos. Death Note is just incredibly dark. It is very methodical. It's very psychological. It has been called a psychological thriller pretty much by Western critics as well as critics in Japan and China and Korea and so on and so forth. It is about a young man named Light who receives a book called The Death Note from a Grim Reaper named Ryuk. And this Grim Reaper is monstrous. He is very scary. And only Light, because he touches the Death Note, can see him. So basically what happens is Light, who is incredibly intelligent for his age, he's very smart. He's above average student. People have said that he could become a scientist. He's the son of a police officer, and he has this family. He starts using the Death Note like to kill criminals, basically. But then he starts getting the big head, and he wants to be worshipped for the perceived good he's doing. So he creates this persona for himself called Kira, and he starts just killing whoever he wants. A secret agent named L, who is one of my all-time favorite characters, he sets out to try to track down Light or Kira, and they have like this really big battle of wits, and at one point L actually meets Light, and then they have another like more personal showdown. It's a fantastic series. It is available on Netflix, and Netflix did a really bad live action remake, which the only good part of that show was Ryuk. They got Willem Dafoe to voice him, which was spot on. Stick with the animated version. Stick with the anime. The reason I say it's good for beginners is because it's very short. It has less than 30 episodes, I believe, and it's very self-contained. You can follow it along. It's very interesting. One of the aspects I like of it is, of course, I love detective genre, and so L trying to track down Kira / Light, that is one thing that I loved, and it was very interesting. It pulled me in, and I couldn't stop. I highly recommend that one. It's a good one for, like I said, older viewers who want to get into anime because they're tired of all the the PC nonsense going on in Western television right now. Okay, so up next we have Fruits Basket. Now this is actually my wife's all-time favorite anime. It is about a girl named Toru Honda who is going to school, and both her parents have passed away, but she was originally living with her grandfather, but there were circumstances that happened with that, and so she had to live in a tent. And she actually discovered she's living on the property of this famous writer, and he and his family, the Somas, they have a secret, and that secret is that they are cursed by the Zodiac, and whenever they get hugged, they turn into their corresponding animal, and so she becomes good friends with them, and slowly but surely they kind of start to appreciate her. A lot of them are suspicious of her because she's an outsider to the family. Now, I put this one on a family one because it is just a good, feel-good kind of story. It does have some darker themes, and it does have language every once in a while. Now, there is some suggestive humor in it because one of the characters owns a costume store, and he can be very suggestive in what he talks about, the way he talks about clothing, and also in some of the humor that he does with his friends, because they have like this really weird bromance, I guess you could call it. But it's a lot of fun. It's easy to get into. There is an older version that came out like way in the early 2000s, and that one is good, but it just kind of ends because it didn't get renewed for a second season, so they just kind of did what they call a patchwork ending. But now they're doing a reboot with it, and it's very interesting as well. It's very thoughtful. Now, I will admit some of the mythology of it kind of gets lost on me, but slowly they reveal more and more about the Zodiac curse and what it does to people. But I highly recommend it. Can't recommend it enough. Just a good, what they call, slice of life anime. So this one is actually more of a fun one, and the only reason I'm saying I recommend it more for teens and adults is because it does have some strong violence in it, and it does have a little bit of foul language in it, but it's brand new Animal. It's actually a Netflix exclusive anime. I believe it's 16 episodes. It's very straightforward. It's brand new, and it's not connected to any other anime, so you don't have to look for mythology and storytelling and plot devices. You can just get into it. And the story is about this girl who, she was a human, but she lives in a society where they're what they're called the beastkin. And the beastkin are people who they look like humans, but they can morph into an animal that they have the DNA of. And basically, it's in a future where the beastkin just kind of come out of hiding. So they're living in a city of their own creation. Some of the beastkin are starting to become feral for no apparent reason. And so this young woman, she was a human, but she turns into a beastkin. She escapes to this city, which I believe is called Anima City, and her friendship develops with this social worker who can morph into a wolf, and the two of them become friends, and they start to try to unravel the mystery of what's going on and why the animals are turning feral. And it does have another reason I'm saying it's more for older people is it does have some political storylines that happen in it that I don't think a younger person would understand, but it's very interesting. It's very in depth. Now I will say, like the last 3 episodes, they just slap you in the face with a whole bunch of new information. So I do hope it gets renewed for a second season, but we'll just have to wait and see. All right, so this is one that is a lot of fun. It aired on what was called the Fox Box. It was a Saturday morning cartoon block in the 2000s, and this is Sonic X. Of course, people know Sonic the Hedgehog from the movie that just came out, as well as the Sega video games, but Sonic X was a TV show where Sonic and his friends got zapped into our world. And so Dr. Robotnik is, of course, trying to capture what is called the 7 Chaos Emeralds, because he wants to use them to take over the Earth. The first season is just kind of introducing Sonic and his friendship with the humans, as well as kind of brings you into learning about the other characters like Knuckles the Echidna and Tails the Fox, and Amy Rose, who's also a girl hedgehog. You're trying to get to know all of them. And then the second season, it adapts Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, the video games, and so you get to explore both of those from that perspective from a television. But it's definitely kid friendly. I believe it is available on Amazon. It's a lot of fun to watch, and I believe it had 4 seasons, and so you can really get into it, and I believe that your kids would enjoy it. I would say if they're 6 and up, they can watch it, because it does have a little bit of violence, but it's all cartoonish kind of violence, and not even as intense as something you would see like on a Looney Tunes episode or whatever. So you could definitely enjoy that. And then also, you know, if they play the video games or like the live action film, this would definitely be another segue for them to enjoy more Sonic. I believe, aside from it being released on DVD, I believe it's also available on Amazon Prime. Now, this one is definitely for the adults in the room. This is Attack on Titan. And the reason I say it is for the adults in the room, because it's in this world, in the future of our planet, where humanity has been invaded by these giants, and they just devour us for no reason. They just have this bloodlust, and they hate us for some odd reason. Now, they start to explain why later in the show, but it is a very impactful series. It's all about sacrifice and these characters who are battling these giant titans, and they're trying to stop humanity from being wiped out. And it has a lot of political intrigue. Now, some of the stuff is confusing, and I will say, season to season, they leave more questions than they answer, but the show is entering its 5th season, and it's its final season. So they're going to have to start answering these questions, because there is a lot left. But one of the reasons I recommend it for beginners is because it grabs you. From the pilot episode all the way down to where they left off, it grabs you, and you get attached to a lot of the characters. It's a lot like Walking Dead in the sense that no character is sacred, with the exception of one character named Levi, who he is actually didn't start out as the main character, but later people loved him so much he kind of started to become one of the main characters in the show. It is attached to a manga. Now, a few people are saying, since this is the 5th and final season, the show will wrap up differently than the manga did. I don't know if that's the case or not, but whatever it is, it like I said, be prepared. Don't watch it while you're eating, because the violence is incredibly graphic and it is sad at times. It gets you down in the dumps, but then other times you're like, roar, and you're ready to take on one of these giants. But the animation is so incredible in it. It's well done. The story is deep. All the characters have a lot of depth. It is available on Netflix, but I don't know if the English dub is available for the whole series on Netflix. It is. They do have it on Funimation Now, which is, of course, Funimation. They do a lot of English dubs for various animes. They have the complete English set available. So I do recommend that. I think that you would enjoy it a great deal. So this next one is for the family, and albeit it's a little dated, but I have to go with Sherlock Hound. This is a great anime for beginners. It was made in the 80s, so it feels a little dated, but it was created by, or it was co-created by one of the founders of Studio Ghibli, which of course gave us such an incredible anime as Spirited Away, My Neighbor Totoro, and so on and so forth. Fantastic series, and it's basically an adaptation of Sherlock Holmes from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. But what they do in this one is Moriarty is the villain in every episode. He's kind of like Dick Dastardly from the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. He's a very good mechanical genius, but when it comes to planning out crimes, he's not really that good at it. And so Sherlock Hound, as he's known, he is actually much more adept at solving the mysteries. It's in a world similar to Utopia, so all of the characters, they resemble animals and they walk around and they all have opposable thumbs. But it's actually a pretty good adaptation of the show. I really wish that they would do a new dub with new voices, because with the exception of Sherlock Hound, a lot of the voices a few times felt like they sounded the same as other characters. So at times you're kind of like, wait, who's talking right now? Is it this guy or this guy? But it's still a really good show. And one of the reasons I'm recommending it is it's available, the whole series in English is available for free on YouTube. So you can watch the whole thing, have a good time with your kids. It's got some cartoonish violence, but there's no foul language, there's no sexual content that you have to worry about. It's really good, it's a lot of fun, and I think you would like watching Sherlock Hound defeat Moriarty and solve the crime. Last but not least is One Punch Man. I'm recommending it for adults and older teens because it does have like a lot of bloody, gory violence, and it's kind of done in a humorous way. But it's about a hero named Saitama who's got this bright bald head. He just wears a plain yellow spandex costume. He's got red gloves, red boots, and a plain white cape. And he is pretty much indestructible. He can destroy any villain with just one punch, hence the name One Punch Man. And no one really knows about him. In fact, in the show, whenever he stops a crime, he just kind of walks away, and so other heroes get the credit. It's kind of a theme throughout the show, and he befriends and takes under his wing a kind of reluctantly a superhero named Genos, who's a cyborg. And Genos is way cooler in all aspects than Saitama, but you kind of get to know Saitama, and you laugh along with him as he just kind of has like these ordinary conversations. He's kind of upset with the fact that he can destroy a villain with just one punch. He wants to actually feel the action. He always says he's a superhero for fun. That's his big thing. But one of the reasons I love it is it has like a lot of jokes and puns and jabs at sort of superhero media, but it does it in a fun way. They actually have clever ideas, clever themes kind of run through it. It's very humorous, it's very funny. One of the reasons I recommend it is it only has 2 seasons and they're both kind of short. I can't recommend it highly enough. You will enjoy it all the way through. So that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching Comics, Cartoons, and Coffee. I'll see you next week with some more information, and maybe we'll have some updates. Let me know if there is a comic book, graphic novel, or cartoon, or animated film you would like me to cover in another episode. Comment below. Find me everywhere on the social media. On Twitter, Parler, and Instagram, I am @RealJakeberry. The same all 3. On Facebook, I'm author Jacob Berry. And of course, you can find me on my website, StudioJakeMedia.com, for even more. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time right here on Studio Jake.